Hello. It's
Hi,
magic when the technology works so well.
it does. It is.
Hello, I am here, the Curious Leader's Path. We're doing, is it number 28, I think? Wonder
I think
and
this is
Awe.
27.
27?
Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay,
27 or 20. We know. Yeah, we'll find out later.
yep. Um, we're talking today about wonder and awe and how it can be a secret weapon. I'm here today with Todd Cargus and Joanne Stone, and I'm Katerina.
Hi.
Hello.
No.
So,
Hello.
the reason that we chose this topic was we've had a whole bunch of topics recently that were a little bit difficult. We had difficult situations, doing difficult stuff, navigating misinformation, navigating
Hmm.
uncertainty. So we've had a whole bunch of
Heavy.
conversations in the last little while that were fairly heavy.
Mm.
And with a tinge of, the reason I'm hesitating is I don't want to use the word negative, but ultimately it's kind of heavy and difficult emotions, difficult topics, difficult
Hmm.
ways of thinking, just difficulty, navigating the complexity that we're in.
Hmm.
And what we were talking, there's a few things that we were talking about over the last little while that we kind of need more awe and more wonder. And we all kind of got to this for different reasons. But
Mm.
the reason that I think it's so important is there's quite a bit of research, and I'll just go at it with the research part. Now, first of all, I'm very lucky that I've actually had many, many experiences of awe, huge, every day. So I'm very lucky that this is very much a habit for me. It's just very much what my life experiences are. But the research into it is actually really interesting, is that it actually can help us reduce our anger and it can reduce our fear. So all three emotions, fear, anger, and awe, are all activating emotions where we actually get like increased nervous system movement and physiological states. But and to some extent, that's why we can almost transmute fear and anger, which many of us are feeling more than we have in previous times. And so the more that we're able to shift into awe, the more we will be able to think clearly, connect with other people, connect at a really deep level, connect with nature, be much more open, increase creativity, increase meaning, increase courage. All of these things are referenced in scientific publications. Yeah, so there's very, very powerful reasons that awe is very important. But I think all of us in different experiences or different times, all three of us have different experiences with awe that helped us or that put us into a state of mind that's just more enjoyable. Why do you guys want to talk about awe?
Sounds like the Wizard of Oz. Every single time you say that. I think from my perspective, I do think it's like that, the ability to reset your system, right?
Mhm.
It's a very, what can I say? It's almost an addictive type of feeling, right?
Mm.
Um, because, sorry, excuse me. Um, because sometimes you just want it more and more and more. I think it because of the fact that it brings some of those happy hormones or chemicals, happy chemicals
Mhm.
in our system, right? Um, so I like to talk about this because I think this is can be the antidote to what we experience day in day out to
Mhm.
kind of give us a space where, like you were talking about, Kat, to become more creative, to like forget about what we're planning on doing, like take us away from all these different things that are happening so that we can experience something purely wonderful,
Mhm.
right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I like all of that. Um, and it's interesting too because like well, before we began recording, Kat, you and I had a bit of a not a disagreement, but just sort of like a let's settle on what it is, right? And it's like the experience of awe and wonder versus awe and wonder as nouns. Um, and and I think what's interesting to me is that there's I don't know, like it's not it for me. There's not a it's not negative or positive. It just is. And you know, often like when I think of the things that are awe-inspiring or wonderous, you know, that you know we have occasional chances to observe, and you know, I'm thinking of like you know the total eclipse of the sun that happened in parts of
Mhm.
North America not that long ago, or a couple days ago when like the entire planet was flooded with aurora borealis and aurora
I
australis.
missed it.
It's
Oh.
I and these are wondrous and awe-inspiring events,
Hmm.
and what a pity if we have to wait for those.
Mm.
um Especially like you said, Joanne, you know, because I missed it too, by the way. I missed I was in the wrong part of the
Oh.
planet and too far, and there were too many trees, and it wasn't for me. And that's okay. But but I can imagine that there you know there is something sort of awe-inspiring and wonderful about that, and that would provoke or evoke, you know, joy. But if you find awe and wonder in sort of the small things, there's a choice that goes along with that, which you mentioned before, Kat, and and anything could be evoked from that. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, sort of like that exuberant joy. It could be something else, but whatever that is something that wasn't there before. I think
Mm.
that's what's important to me.
Hmm.
Well, it's interesting because I feel that it hits us when we think of awe and wonder. I'm sure my definition of awe and wonder, or how I feel awe and wonder, is going to be different than each one of you, right?
Hmm.
And whether or not, if it's, the total eclipse, which was, wow, that was amazing, that was
Hmm.
magical in a way. That will only that happens, I don't know how many years in our specific region. I mean, actually the next time is in Egypt. It's going to be beautiful. By the way, I'll have to
Hmm.
go to see that. Um, but there's an aspect of, we don't have to wait to kind of, or it's not this, it doesn't have to be this big huge thing, right? That only comes once in a while to be able to feel it. To
Hmm.
your point. So, but I
Hmm.
make up that we think of it differently, like in terms of what triggers it in ourselves.
What are some things that trigger it for you?
Ooh.
Babies. Every single time I think of my girls when they're born,
Hmm.
um, it was just so wonderful. Like just when you have a child, like I was telling you guys earlier, like when they put up their hands and they're looking at it, like they're going, "Oh, what is this thing?" It's amazing. They're just in total awe and wonder. It's so much innocence and it's beautiful. Um, but most recently, when I was in Utah in the real life program, I was just in such awe and wonder in terms of um, how the Diane Mushel Hamilton, who was heading up the thing, was celebrating everybody's humanity almost, right?
Mhm.
And there was such pure joy and pure sweetness in that. I don't know what it was that I saw, but it was just so amazing to be able to see someone like her celebrate every single individual.
Mhm.
And she bowed down. She actually bowed down on the ground in front of each one, and with her other monks, and the other staff that were part of this, and it was absolutely delightful. It was beautiful. Um, and there's something with that we don't get to see. That I mean, that just kind of like, oh my gosh, it's just I get teary, right, because of it. It's so
Hmm.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I Because I think, you know, it's funny as you were talking, like when you started talking, Joanne, I thought, oh, my answer is different, but actually not really. But in it, so I also returned recently from, you know, from an experience, and I was in North Carolina, not Utah, and in the Appalachian Mountains, um, and spent a lot of time in more time than I normally would in nature. Certainly more time in nature during rainstorms than I normally would have. Um, and 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 the experience was solitary. So what you're describing, Joanne, is an experience that involves other people, and my experience was very solitary. And I was, sort of the thing that my experience of nature. And I won't go into a bunch of details, but the thing that my experience of nature evoked was emotional and strange because I wasn't expecting what showed up to show up, and ultimately revealed, for me anyway, a connection. And I think that's the thing that's common here is that there's, there's a connection, and there's blips here and there where we get an opportunity to see how we're connected, or not even how, but that we're connected. And not just, like the three of us, but like the three of us and all of the other people and all of the other living things and all of the. And that is awe-inspiring in itself, and can evoke a whole bunch of different emotions in different people, depending on the situation that you find yourself in, and how that reveals itself to you and how long that revelation lasts. So I warned at the beginning of this, before we started recording, that I was going to go a little woo-woo. I feel like I may be going there. But
Not yet.
I'm thinking. So all right. So I'm thinking, like, here's the books that I've read recently. So I was recently reading Radical Wholeness by Philip Shepard, and one of the, or maybe it was Emergent Strategy. I can't remember which one. By I forget her name, Adrienne Brown. One of them, or both of them perhaps, mentions like the mycelia network, as being sort of a metaphor for all of this. And really, in many ways, the mycelia network isn't like the mushrooms that we see growing up out of the ground are, a byproduct of it, but the mycelia network itself is a single organism and possibly the largest one on Earth. And that's incredible and awe-inspiring and weird. And if that's a connection, well, then surely it is connected to everything else, and also us. I mean, like in a physiological way, in that, like, the air that we breathe is full of the stuff that creates everything else.
So the awe so the awe for you, Todd, is the recognition of that, or the feeling of it, or other things?
Well, and I mean, it's so humongous that it really does, for me, just sort of show up in blips and strips and starts, right?
Yeah.
And the awe is the awe is sort of that moment of recognition, or experiencing. And then, for me, when I can kind of go, okay, I understand, and sort of slip into or surrender to that with my own presence, then what bubbles up from that space is quite unique and awful. Not awful.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because not AWFUL, but AWEFUL.
Yeah.
Full of awe.
Can I talk more about it?
Maybe answer the question however you want. But what does the feeling of awe do for you? So because most people listening to this want to figure out how to apply it in business,
right.
And I call it a secret weapon, because I really believe that the more that we can be in a state of awe, the happier we are, the more joy we can experience. You used that word earlier on, Joanne.
Yeah.
I really believe that awe, to me, awe is the closest thing I have to a religious experience. I'm not religious. I have a hard time with most organized religion, but to me, nature is my church. And
You've used that phrase before, and that I was, and I love it.
And so for me, it's really that connection the mycelium, but also the fact that the trees and the plants create the air that we need to breathe. What we breathe out feeds them back. We're doing all sorts of horrible things to the plants and the animals, but it's all this interconnectedness and just the awe of how amazing our environmental system is. But it's not such an academic experience for me. It's very much a physiological experience for me. And whenever I feel that, I've gone through some extremely difficult times in my life, like life-threatening, blah, blah, blah. And I think the reason that I've been able to grow from those experiences is specifically because I can tap into awe so quickly and so, and it's not escapist. It's a matter of just reminding myself that I'm part of things. Yeah. And that allows me then to go forward. But those are more extreme personal experiences. But in work, it also allows me to see things from different perspectives, be more holistic, be less in my headspace and what I can explain and interpret, but more in order to feel and connect with people and connect with the experience. Those are the things that awe tends to allow me to do. I don't think I'm doing justice to what my experience is, but I'm curious how you guys experience it. And what are the benefits? Like, how does it become a secret weapon for you? Use whatever words you want to use.
So what's interesting for me is when I step into awe, the magic of awe, it's in the present moment, right?
Yes.
So it's something that right now I'm in awe of whatever is happening, and it's actually similar to flow, right? So when we start flowing, right, we lose track of time, total
Again,
track
that
of time.
connectedness, right?
Yeah, like well, we could be connected to someone else or not, but it's just like when we are flowing, we're very present, right, with what's going on, and there's no time. There's no judgment, there's nothing else. It's just this, we are in this specific moment, and something in that moment is just giving us this beautiful feeling, right? Now, it doesn't have to be like, like we were talking earlier, like the pyramids or whatever else. But, I mean, I remember some of the stuff at work being able to come out when I was just like, sometimes it's a feeling of proud for me too, right? Where it's just like I'm incredibly, like, I'm in the presence of a person who is just incredibly awesome, right? Just they have that integrity. They're fully living everything, right? And just the way they show up, it's like an athlete who's doing, like, I think you're talking about, like, who is in the Olympics, right? Like someone who shows up, who's in flow, right? That I feel is in flow, right? And I see that, and it's so beautiful to be able to see. It's beautiful, but to be close to the people. For me, what starts happening in my head is like, how did they do that? Like, it looks like I can't believe, however that they came up and showed up like the way they did. It gets me really curious, right? Because of how they kind of show up, and they are.
First one to use that word, and do we have our bell?
Oh my
The
gosh!
curiosity bell?
First one. Whee! Yeah, I got it.
Yay.
I got it.
Well done.
Excellent. Very good.
Thank you. Todd, I interrupted you.
Well, no. Well, because I love what you said, because I think we've been sort of going in a direction of, awe and wonder in the natural world, and hadn't really been talking about, that kind of awe that you experience when you're in the presence of someone who is in flow. And I think that what's really interesting about that, especially as you were talking, Joanne, you were saying, it provokes awe and wonder in you, because you wonder, how do they do that? And what is it about that? And the thing that immediately popped into my head, which is a true statement, is that I have felt that awe in both of your presence because of things that you have done and said.
Wow, that's flattering. Thank you.
And well, I'm glad it's flattering. It's not intended to be.
Aww.
But it's You know that saying, like, it's not mean if it's true. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not flattering if it's true. Also,
It's fine. It's fine.
and I guess it's like it popped in my head, and I was like, yeah, actually, I have had that experience. I know what that's like, and I know what that's like because of the work that I've done with both of you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something kind of lovely about that. And you're right. It is wondrous. It is awe in that moment. And I think what I'm taking away from this part or from this arc in the conversation is that it doesn't have to be like the thing that you search out and the thing that is big, and it's I mean, we talked about the aurora, and we talked about the eclipse, and also smaller things as well. But awe and wonder exist in the seemingly mundane too. Like it's I looked at both of your faces when I said what I said, and you were both like, "What?" And it's like you can provoke awe and wonder without even knowing you're doing it.
Yeah. Are
Which
there
is
people
maybe
you
a
think
flip
that
side of the superpower, because I hadn't considered that as a possibility either.
do you think there's people who can't experience awe? And if so, why would you speculate that they can't?
Oh,
I love the question. I was actually thinking the same thing.
okay.
I really think they can't because they're not in the present, and what they're thinking is too much into the future, or they're in the past. So I just think that their mind is so occupied that they're unable to be present with what's happening in front of them. So they're unable to experience it.
That's a
Yeah.
great answer. That's a really, really good answer. Well, no, because I mean, I don't know if I'm going to break a definition that's already been said, but yeah, awe and wonder is something that happens now,
Mm-hmm.
and we're always present to something,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
but we might be present to worry about the future or fretting
Yeah.
about the past,
Yes.
and there's
And I
no
would
awe and wonder in those things.
And I would add another piece to it, which I think is very strongly connected to what you're saying, Joanne, which is a lot of people are very much always in their cognitive state. They're always thinking, they're always in their head brain and not
Yeah.
enough in their bodies. Yeah.
Mm.
And to me, being in your body is like really being aware of what's happening in your body is almost the same thing as being present. They're very closely connected. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm saying the same thing you did, just in a slightly different way.
I love it. I totally agree. Because if they're always connected to what's going on in their mind, they're always thinking,
Mhm.
then they're not really present,
Mhm.
right? Because they're present to just here. They're not present to anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Makes
Can
sense.
I mean, I hope I'm not going to come across as pedantic when I say this, but I'm just like, I'm looking at the title
Mm.
of today, and wonder and awe are secret weapons. And if a weapon is a tool, then like what do these tools fix, or what do these tools what do they enable? Like what's available
The reason I chose
as a result?
the reason I chose the word weapon as opposed to superpower, it is, I think awe and
Mm-hmm.
wonder are absolutely superpowers. But the
Mm-hmm.
reason I chose the word a weapon, a secret weapon, is because we need to find ways to counteract all of the negativity, the false information, the lies, the anger, the
Mm-hmm.
fear, our own anger and fear,
Mm-hmm.
complexity, which is very confusing at different times. And we need awe just to be able to sit there and go, holy crap, I have no idea what's going on right now, but
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing that there's so much energy or whatever. Like that to me is the weapon.
Mm-hmm.
It's to counteract the things that stall us, that hold us back, that make us feel less than.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To me, it's what I love about awe is it's not about us having grandiose visions about I'm going to save the world. Awe is a matter of together we can do a lot more things than we can do individually. And it's a bit of a
Mm-hmm.
cheesy statement, but to me, that's the weapon part of it.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I was just sort of think comparing it to something that sometimes we get really frustrated at work and we go out for a walk, right? And we hope the walk is going to help reduce the stress in our bodies. It, allows us to breathe, allows us to de-stress. There's some stuff that does happen. But if our mind is always in the cognitive place as to that meeting, what just happened, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
it's in an anxious state. It's like it's always, fearful or whatever the case would be. But if on your walk you come across, this beautiful orange, red flower, right? Magnolia, whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
and you stare into it and you just absorb all the colors, you look at the intricacies of the leaves, you see, so at that particular point in time, you are present with that particular item.
Mhm.
And for some people, they are delighted, are in awe and wonder of that particular thing. How did it become there? Why did it,
Mhm.
why did it bloom? Like, why are the colors the way it is?
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, too bad Joanne just
I think we
froze.
might have
Tanya
lost
has
her.
a great, yeah,
I was going to say I'm going to pull up Tanya's comment because I think there's something really excellent here.
yeah. I
Um,
love this idea of armor and a weapon, protection and
yeah.
defense,
Well,
defense and offense.
yeah, and what's interesting to me about that is that it's like armor and a weapon, yes, and it also to me creates a condition where perhaps armor and weapons are less necessary.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like both and from that
yeah,
perspective. But what I
yeah,
really like, what I love about Tanya, what you said here is finding it in the small things.
yeah.
And we have lost Joanne,
Too
but
bad.
that's okay.
Yeah,
We've got a couple minutes left. I'm certain she'll come back.
yes.
Um, and
That was not Joanne calling.
it's wonder and awe.
So how do you nurture? How can we nurture it? How can we it's not our job and it's not our business to
Mhm,
foster awe in other people, but to some
mhm,
extent, how do we create the conditions so that we can feel awe more frequently and that we can allow other people to really tap into this power of awe?
well, I mean, I think this wasn't a leading question, but my answer is curiosity. Um,
I
it's
honestly wasn't even thinking about that, so I'm glad you did.
it's yeah. It did, it's there's Joanne. She's back. Hang on a second. Let's let her in. And yeah, so my answer is curiosity, and I think hi Joanne, and I think like how do we foster it? It's the opportunity for awe and wonder is all around us.
Mhm.
So, what is the curiosity that allows us to experience awe and wonder in those moments rather than flipping the switch to, oh, I know what that is? And I think that awe and wonder, at least my experience of awe and wonder, has increased as I've become more and more curious about the things that I do and who I am in certain situations and where I am and what that has built and how that's become a secret weapon for me is
Mhm.
that it's like the trajectory towards self-trust goes up and up
Mhm.
and up and up. And that's where I think it becomes a secret weapon
Yeah.
in my experience.
I think that's brilliant what you just said. Yeah, there's so many dynamics in what you just said that I think the power of awe and curiosity. Well done. Yeah. Joanne, what are your thoughts on how we can nurture awe for ourselves, like create the conditions for ourselves and create the
Yeah.
conditions so other people, if they choose to be in awe, that they can?
Ooh. Um, I think I would try and build this daily into my routine of trying to find things that gives me awe. And usually that's my dogs. Every single time I see them in the morning, it's such delight, such like, um, but what I would do is, I would try and remember, if you've never found it before, you don't remember it, you don't do it every day. Just when was the last time you experienced it, right? And perhaps in that last experience, you can actually take from that and look at what it was and try and repeat that. Um, but I think it's tapping into almost like our innate selves, like our 5-year-old. Like I would be my 5-year-old self, right? Like that's what I would do. Like what surprises you, right? Like you know,
Mhm.
what is it that gives you the awe and the wonder, right? Is it Disney? I don't know what it is, right? But yeah, I would sit there and find that, and then try and do more of that, right? Whatever that
Yeah.
might be.
Mhm.
And I also love what Tanya's offered, which
Yeah.
is because I want to pull that up again. It's
Share it.
yes, and share it, because
Yeah.
then we have an opportunity to build community and to build that
Exactly.
connection, right? And all of that weird kind of mycelia, whatever stuff that we were talking about becomes actual, right? Like it's a thing,
You
Celebrate
bring
the
a friend to
importance
see the
of-
flower.
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
love
and
it.
share it. And share it,
Yeah.
because and I love that. I think that's great, because then it's not just my secret weapon. It's
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's someone else's, right? Like that quote, that I've heard that quote. It's like, you can't compete with me because I want you to win too.
Oh, I like that. Nice.
I forget who said it, but I really like it.
Very good.
We're a little over time.
Yeah. Thanks
I
for a
just
wonderful
noticed.
conversation. I'm in awe of the conversation we had. Thank you.
Me too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Me too.
And we will talk again in the next little while.
Absolutely. Thank you
All right,
and thank you for leading this one, Kat. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you all later.
Talk soon. Bye.